I'd like to start this video off with a disclaimer. I've created this as a slightly more in-depth dive into the comparison of meta builds versus optimized fashion builds. Therefore, it is expected that viewers have a basic understanding of the build making process, as I will not be going in depth about basic elements of the meta level range, minimum HP, poise breakpoints, or stat soft caps. Before we take a look at a few example builds, let's take a moment to define the difference between optimal and optimized. Both are similar and are often used interchangeably, despite the fact that they have different meanings. Optimal is defined as best or most favorable. This means that whatever is being referred to, which in this context is a PvP build, has the best possible equipment and traits in order to achieve a goal. An optimal build will use every possible advantage at its disposal and will use the best combination of armor, stats, weapons, spells, and rings in order to perform at the highest level. Optimized is defined as to make the best or most effective use of a situation, opportunity, or resource. An optimized build takes a certain characteristic that is desired by the creator, such as a certain ring, spell, a specific carry weight, an armor setup, poise, or stat amount, and creates the build around that aspect. Optimized fashion often builds around its armor or weapons, making the best of use of its stats and equipment while maintaining the fashion desired. In short, meta builds rarely make compromises, while optimized fashion makes sacrifices to achieve a desired look while maintaining its usability in a PvP setting. Now, let's take a look at two optimal meta builds and compare them to an optimized fashion counterpart. First, let's talk about this build. This is a soul level 125 Nightmom Flip Chaos Blade, possibly the build that is most synonymous with tryhard Dark Souls 1 PvP. Looking over the stats, there's very little that the build is lacking. High HP, a few spell slots for pyromancies, no wasted weight, 45 dexterity for the cast speed, and enough poise to prevent being bullied by lighter weapons. The only number that may look low to some is the strength. However, Chaos Blade does not scale with strength at all, making any investment beyond the minimum wasteful. Pyromancy gives any build large amounts of utility and options, while the armor is made to give the best defenses possible while maintaining light movement speeds and providing beneficial poise and effects via the Mask of the Mother. The Ring of Favor is a staple of all builds, and the Darkwood Grain Ring is used to achieve the iconic flip instead of a normal roll. All in all, a very good build that sacrifices very little, if anything at all. It has been refined and perfected to the utmost degree. Now, as we look at the fashion build, we notice a few marked differences almost immediately. Firstly, we notice that this build is at level 135, 10 levels higher than the Nightmom. Next, the armor is heavier, therefore endurance must be higher to compensate and keep the 25% or below weight use. Also, despite a similar amount of vitality, the health is 226 points lower than the Nightmom. This build still retains 16 strength, 45 dexterity, the same weapon setup, and the same pyromancies, along with the same rings. However, the largest difference is the armor. There is no Mask of the Mother on this build, which is why the HP is so much lower. For damage comparisons today to determine which build is better, I will be using the standard, which is a two-handed Chaos Blade R1. I have linked the damage calculator I use to determine these numbers, as well as a motion value sheet to assist anyone who may want to use it for themselves. This calculator has been tested extensively and is supported by values taken directly from the game files. With a slash defense of 305.4, This build will take 344 damage per hit. Another way to determine a build's survivability against a certain weapon is the effective HP, not listed here, which is how much HP you have effectively have after defenses. In this case, this build's effective HP is 3,033, and would take 5 Chaos Blade two-handed R1s to kill. Comparatively, Night Mom has a slash defense of 367.3 and would take 306 damage per hit. This gives it an effective HP of 3,810, making it take 7 Chaos Blade two-handed R1s to kill. This means that Night Mom will survive about 2 more two-handed R1s from Chaos Blade. In a game where every bit of HP counts, this 2-hit difference is massive. Now, on to the second comparison. This is a level 125 Giant Elite Knight Giant mid Murakumo, a very popular and powerful build centered around high poise and defense, used to pressure an opponent and capitalize on mistakes with high backstab and R1 damage. 50 vitality is standard amongst meta builds, 43 endurance for minimum wasted weight while maintaining mid-roll, 28 strength to one-hand the Murakumo, and 45 dexterity for casting speed. The weapon choices assist in keeping the player as safe as possible, as mid-roll is weak to more mobile builds, as well as pyromancy. Great Combustion and Black Flame in particular are very dangerous, even more so to an unprepared mid-roll build. It makes up for this weakness by using the Black Knight Shield, with its 100% physical and 95% fire block. Combined with a very high stability of 74, this shield is paramount in keeping a mid-Kumo in the fight against a fast, pyro-using player. The armor is, same as Night Mom, the best defense and poise to weight ratio possible while achieving at least 61 poise and keeping the Black Knight Shield. Mask of the Mother to increase HP, the Ring of Favor and Protection as a staple of every build, and Hornet Ring to increase the already high backstab damage of Murakumo. I have replaced Fire Surge with Fire Tempest on this build, as that is just my personal preference. With the focus on backstabs, the likelihood of getting a cancel in your favor is higher, and Tempest serves to try and trap an opponent in the wake-up animation with high damage in a large area for an extended time. This build is no longer the monster it was in Prepare to Die edition, but it is still very dangerous to any player. On the opposite side, we have a level 135 Fashion Mid-Kumo. Before we take a look at it, I will say that this build does not sacrifice as much compared to the previous Fashion build. In fact, its physical defenses are higher than those of a 125 Mid-Kumo. It maintains 61 poise, mid-roll, the use of the Black Knight Shield, the same pyromancies, 45 dexterity, 28 strength, and over 50 vitality. The only real disadvantages it has are slightly lower flame and lightning defense, as well as lower HP. But just as with the last Fashion build, it is 10 levels higher at 135, but still has less HP than a 125 build. Comparing the defenses, the Fashion build has 451.2 slash defense, therefore having an effective HP of 3,972. The 125 build, on the other hand, has 426.4 slash defense, giving it an effective HP of 3,953. As a result, the Fashion build will take 260 damage from a Chaos Blade two-handed R1, while the 125 build will take 273 damage. That is an increase of 4%. However, this difference in damage is mostly mitigated by the increased health of the 125 build. Still, the 135 build has a slightly higher effective HP, but both builds will still die to 8 Chaos Blade two-handed R1s. That means that we must look at the finer details to figure out which build is truly better. The Fashion build does have the slightly higher effective HP, as after 7 Chaos Blade two-handed R1s, it will have 75 HP remaining, while the 125 build will only have 70. But this difference is not very important in 90% of scenarios, only coming into play when chip damage is used. And as previously stated, the 125 Mid-Kumo has higher flame and lightning defense to counter the most common forms of chip, such as Demon Spear and Pyromancies. Along with that, the 125 build has the ability to take off the Mask of the Mother and replace it with Crown of Dusk, increasing your own pyromancy damage to help end the fight faster, while maintaining essentially the same defense values as well as your poise. You can swap to Crown on the 135 fashion build, but you will go down to 63 poise and lose a decent amount of your defense. Combined with the fact that 125 is a more common level and a very similar effective HP, and the 125 meta mid-Kumo comes out on top of the 135 fashion mid-Kumo. But the final question that some might have is, which do you choose? And the answer is, it's your preference. If you're okay with having the disadvantages that come with an optimized fashion build, then feel free to go and make one. Fashion builds can be a lot of fun, but you also don't have to just play fashion. Playing a meta build is perfectly acceptable and fun in its own right. People may call you a sweat, or try hard, or say that using a meta build is just using a crutch. However, your skill level is not determined by using a meta build, nor is one make you a worse player simply because it gives you advantages. Personally, I prefer a meta build over a fashion build. But you don't have to conform to whatever someone tells you. It is your choice in the end. That being said, I do have a recommendation. If you are just getting into PvP, if you're just learning the fundamentals, I strongly recommend starting with a meta build. It provides a great build with as many advantages and tools as possible to use and experiment with as you learn. Once you feel comfortable with the basics, then I would say you can start to migrate to an optimized fashion build if you so choose. But I do stress that beginners at least try a meta build and give it an honest chance. Going straight to a fashion build can close off certain avenues to you as you grow. But as I have just stated, it is your choice in the end. As previously said before, I have provided links to a damage calculator and a motion value sheet in the description to assist in creating and optimizing builds. Thank you.